Welcome back to another episode of What's the Point, the show where we discuss varying forms of media and occasionally ask the question, what's the point? Let's go. Hello, I'm your host Michael, joined as ever by my wickedly talented,
beautiful, handsome
co-host Matthew.
Bonjour.
Before we get started today, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're actually closing in on a milestone, which is pretty exciting for us.
Yes, 93 subscribers. Big 93.
We're 8 away from 100, and I can't wait to get that 100 YouTube button.
Don't they say you like a cardboard plaque with the?
Well, you get gold. You get gold for 1 million. You get silver for 100,000, and you get like.
I'm gonna make a cardboard one.
Pyrite, fool's gold.
I'm gonna make a cardboard one and stick it in the background for 100 subscribers.
That's my idea. I already wrote. I made one out of paper. So fuck you.
Yeah, but your paper one just said 100 subscribers. I'm gonna actually make it like a. So it looks just like YouTube said it. And what I'll do is I'll put it together and I'll let you unbox it.
I'm keeping this in just so you know.
Yeah.
So you know what? If you happen to be our 100th subscriber, I will send you this used lip balm. Okay. So this is usually the point in the video where I say, what's the point of discussion today, Matthew? But I actually am going to tee this one up for us. I had this idea, and we thought it would be, we're on 18 videos now?
Something like that, yeah.
How many episodes of What's the Point? This is episode 7. I thought it was a good chance to maybe make our own channel the focus of this discussion.
What's the point, yeah.
What's the point in our Moments in Movies series?
Yeah.
So if you haven't already checked them out, we're going to throw up some cards here on the screen. You go take a look at those videos. Mine are entitled "Silly Moments in Great Movies." The implication being these really great, awesome cinematic events which just have these head-scratching moments in them. Matthew's been producing a series, one video in, but he's going to be bringing you more. He's been producing great moments in bad movies. So movies that are not really critically acclaimed, not necessarily terrible flicks, but films that are either on the scale of laughably bad and just not quite up to par.
And these are all our interpretations as well, because I did get a few comments on the channel that some of the movies that I picked, people thought they were good movies. Now, again, what is good and bad, or epic and terrible, is all a matter of opinion.
Well, at least they were being nice and engaging. I just got told to shut up.
Yeah. Shut up.
You know who you are.
Yeah, and thanks for commenting. So I don't think we need to attack all of them, because that would be 15 movies. But there are some in there.
let's try to see if we can do a speed round on some of these. Let's start with mine.
Let's start with the silliest moment out of the 10 that you did.
Oh,
it's hands down.
No. You don't get to decide that.
Well, no.
Let me.
I throw it at you. And
I'll tell you if I agree. If it's the silliest moment.
So the silliest moment in all 10 films is the flaming Usain Bolt Denethor, because the Lord of the Rings trilogy for me is one of the greatest trilogies out there. And again, my opinion. But the scene that in question that we put in, Michael put into his video, was when Denethor decides to commit suicide by throwing himself on the pyre and setting him on fire like the kings of old, which in the book is exactly what he does. But what he doesn't do in the book is then go on a 3-kilometer run whilst on fire and dive off the top of Minas Tirith. So, Michael, tell me why you thought that was silly.
Well, I mean, I've always thought it was weird. I remember seeing the movie in theaters back in 2003, and you're just treated to this epic visual awesomeness that is The Return of the King. And now I had read the books, so there's that in my mind. So I don't know if maybe if you're not familiar with the way it plays out in the books, if that affects your opinion. But when that scene happens, you've got Gandalf with this sort of serious moment, a direct quote from the book where it says, "So passes Denethor, son of Ecthelion," or not. Like, that's
Yeah.
the kind of thing you say after somebody's died. But it's like, no, it's like, fuck this. You
And-
don't get the last word, Gandalf, and he jumps off the pyre and just does a fucking 3,000 meter sprint.
Well, and nobody decides to put him out or stop, drop, and roll.
No, like,
And I just want to point this out there for the people. If we take the world record time for the 1,500 meters, and we got a topographical map, and we worked out that the rough distance that Denethor has to run before he gets to leap is 3 kilometers, 3,000 meters. So the world record speed for an athlete to run 1,500 meters is 3 minutes and 26 seconds. So let's call it 3.5
yeah,
minutes.
but what's the world record of doing that whilst on fire?
But that's what I'm saying. So he would have to run at world record speed for 1,500 meters. It'd still take him 7 minutes that he's burning alive. I don't think a human could stay alive whilst engulfed in flames like he is for 7 minutes. Even stuntmen who do those acts, so the stuntman who actually does the running down the corridor, as soon as he got through that door, he will have been put out, and he will have felt the heat through all the gels that they wear and the suits that they wear. There's no way Denethor's running 3,000 meters in 7 minutes whilst on fire.
See, to me, it's just ridiculous because of the. Sorry. To me, it's just ridiculous because of the concept. Like, he's supposed to be, I say in the video, he's supposed to be having this dignified, dying on his own terms, maniacal suicide attempt. And it's almost like he's like, no, I changed my mind. I want to jump to my death instead.
Well,
and so just the mere idea to me is silly.
how tall's Minas Tirith?
He should have just. It's tall. It's enough. It's a cliff. Whatever. He should have just burned up and died. Well, Gandalf says that line, and then it shows it panning out to the Battle of the Pelennor Fields.
Yeah.
And that's probably what was supposed to happen. If you were in the storyboard session for that, that's probably what was supposed to happen. And somewhere, either Peter Jackson was like, "This needs Denethor running across the Tower of the Guard and jumping to his death," or like I cheekily suggested, maybe someone just threw it in post, and it was too late when Peter Jackson realized. But either way, it comes off as just absolutely bonkers.
Well, even if Minas Tirith is a good couple of thousand feet high on the side of a mountain, it's then probably going to take him another minute to fall and hit the ground.
It's just like just one of the most painful, excruciating death ever.
This is what I think what was happening is Peter Jackson didn't think movie nerds like us would scrutinize it so much and go, what the fuck was that?
But when I watched it the first time I saw it, there was laughter in the theater.
Yeah.
There was laughter in the theater, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, they pulled me out of the movie. I was like, that's supposed to be a really serious, tragic moment.
But it only pulled you out of the movie because the goofy laugh wasn't on there as he jumped off the...
No. So it's ridiculous, and I have to say it is up there on the silliest of moments, but it isn't the silliest in my opinion out of the 2 videos I've made so far.
Okay, so...
There's actually kind of a par for the 2 silliest moments that I had.
Was that par with one of them? Or
No.
No. So don't get me wrong.
Because I think that film gets a pass because, as one of our commenters said, it's totally badass.
Well,
so the fact that he managed to do it is pretty badass.
So here's something else that you got to take into concept if you're going to account. Not concept. Account if you are going to do what we did and think way too hard about a scene in a movie is. As scary as the shriek of the ring wraiths and the orcs coming over the wall, could you imagine the soldiers running down? All of a sudden, it's flaming. Be like, oh my god, they're throwing burning bodies at us now.
Or just to be like, all right, I'm done. That's it. I've seen everything. Come get me, orcs.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck?
So
can I?
Well, I just wanted to say one last thing
on it.
It gets relegated mostly because you kind of move on to the epicness of the Battle of the Pelennor Fields immediately after. So you very much, it gets washed out. It's eye bleach. It's basically like eye torture followed by some eye bleach.
Yeah.
Eye bleach meaning some great shit to see.
I just thought
you completely
else
forget
as
about
well.
what happened.
In the scene, he's killing himself because he's lost both his sons and that his line is ending. But in the movie, he sees that Faramir's alive. So why doesn't he try and put himself out rather than continue running?
Well, that's a nitpick. He's lost his mind. And I make that point. He's completely insane at this point.
But
because he also knows Faramir is not dead. Yeah. Pippin tells him he's not dead. He needs medicine, so he knows he's not dead. He's just fucking lost his mind.
Well, think about the special editions and stuff that got left on the cutting room floor. That should have really been there as well.
Of course. Like I said, it feels like post-production, especially when you look at the effects now. You can not only can you tell from the moment that what's his name? Not John Noble.
Yeah,
the actor who plays Denethor, John Noble. The last moment he has on screen from actually acting is after he sees Faramir's alive, and then he starts going ah,
like he's burning.
And then the next shots are obviously a stuntman with in a fire retardant outfit, and then CGI. Yeah. So it all seems like post production to me.
Do you think it was put in post?
Yeah. So that's one of the sillier moments.
So I'm going to try and guess then which you think is the silliest of the 10 you've done.
Well, remember, the two are pretty much on par with each other.
Okay, so there's one that you did that there's no way on earth of anything that could have caused it to happen, and it was put in the movie, and it was really bizarre. But then there's some, as you say, most of these silly moments are really silly. So I'm going to go with the one that no matter what happened or how this person did this, it would not have given the effect that he got in the end. And it's Have a Nice Day, Forrest Gump.
No.
Really?
No. Because the thing about Have a Nice Day, Forrest Gump is you've got the argument that, hey, look, this film's a little bit, you've got to suspend your disbelief throughout this film.
Well, no, because nothing really in that film could not have happened.
But it is all outrageous still. So the film itself tonally is pretty outrageous. The reason I considered that the straw that broke the camel's back for me is because it betrays the laws of physics. Well, yeah, so if you've got mud all over your face and you get a clean shirt,
there's no
and
way
you wipe
you get
your
that.
face clean like he does, then it'd just be a complete muddy mess.
And even if you're suspending disbelief, even if you just got it and patted it, and it left a human-shaped face with a big smile, like Joker, and then the guy interpreted that and turned it into the pin.
If it wasn't quite so perfectly obvious that it's the Have a Nice Day smiley face.
Exactly the same thing.
So just to summarise on the Forrest Gump thing real quick, because we don't need to go into too much about that one. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like you take another joke from earlier in that sequence when he steps in the dog shit or the cow shit or whatever it is, and the guy's like, whoa, you just stood in a pile of shit. And Forrest says, it happens. And it's the guy who's looking for a slogan for a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Hence the famous shit happens bumper sticker. That's clever. And that's really clever.
That's plausible as well.
Yeah, and it's followed up by the Have a Nice Day. It almost feels like I hate using this phrase, but it feels forced. And that to me it's just too silly.
Too silly. That's why it's in a video called Silly Moments of Great Films.
So you've got 13 movies now. No, wait. You've got 8 movies to guess the 2 silliest.
All right. Right, I'm going to go with my next one because tonally all was all wrong. And that's Javert Into the Dike. Into the Weir. No?
Close, but no dice.
What the heck? You got silly ones in them?
Okay. Do you want me to just tell you?
Well, let's just discuss Javert, seeing as I brought it up.
Okay, so Javert is very silly.
Stop that. That's silly.
Yeah. It's so glaringly strange in contrast to the rest of the film. With Denethor in Return of the King, it's just a minor little post-production gaffe. With Forrest Gump, it's more of just a little nitpick that just goes too far. With Javert,
tonally, it's all wrong.
Well, with Javert, you've got this stage play that is being adapted for screen. So a lot of people watching it are already familiar with it. It is it's a very a very sad story.
You've seen the stage play. How does he do it in the stage play?
It's so in the stage play, basically he goes. His last line is, "There is no way to go on." And it's like all the lights pan up, and whoever's playing him, the actor, gets cast in shadow, and the music swells up, and he just kind of like sinks away, and it's like, so I think the newer productions, so the West End production was like that. The Broadway production I saw recently actually has a bridge prop that gets pulled up.
Yeah.
But the same effect though of light being cast up and him now falling into shadow, and then the actor just walks off stage.
Right. Yeah.
You could have very easily done that in the film. But it's like, no, like, squelch.
It's so graphic.
It's like, and not to mention that the singers in the stage play throw their all into that, and the line, there's no way to go on, is part of him falling. It's far, yeah. Whereas Russell Crowe, it's like, there is no way to go on, and then he looks, nosedive. And then it's just bizarre.
Like how he edited it in the film, though, that he could have done the nosedive and we faded it to black, and then allow the audience's imagination. Which is what you do watching it on stage. Yeah. But in the film, nothing real. There's nothing real. I don't want to call it violence, but it's graphic. Because when he hits that, obviously we know it's a dummy. But it's still a hard impact of what is potentially a human we've just watched for the last 2.5 hours and a character. So if you didn't know anything, just to see that you'd be like, oh fuck, where did that come from? And like we said in the clip, you would have expected something like the Wilhelm scream as he goes down, but they could have done it like we did, where he fades to black and he slow motion drop, and then it just shows a splash. Or a splash and then still water to emphasize that it's now still water, he's dead.
But what was the Foley sound design guy doing to create that sound of him hitting the weir? Like, did he get like a cat litter box with some cat litter and pour a bunch of water in it and just like stamp his feet? Because that's what it sounds like.
Now, I haven't walked the entire banks of the Seine either in Paris, but from what I remember where I have walked, I don't remember seeing a wheel like that in the Seine anyway.
Irrelevant. It could have been taken out in the early 20th century, for all you know. That's not what makes that scene silly.
It's a major river that goes through. All
right, keep it coming. Now you've only got 7 to choose from. I'll give you a clue. They're not in part 2.
Okay, so if they're not in part 2,
that means Matrix and X-Men are out of the equation.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say it, but I don't think it's the silliest, and that's Superman's S. It's a comic book movie.
No, but okay. But that's the same. That's a fantasy movie, or it's it's what's it called? It's a fairy, because Forrest Gump is essentially a fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale. No, okay. The reason that's so stupid is because there is an established set of rules for what Superman's powers are and why he has them. And this is where the Chris Reeves Superman movies really start to kind of go off the rails anyway. If the fourth movie was a good movie, that would be full of silly moments in good movies.
Yeah.
Because you start getting things like in Superman 4, where for some reason he can rebuild the Great Wall of China with his eyes, and he can make people float, and
you can bring people down because nuclear man.
Now, we do actually, oddly enough, in the comics, get explanations for his ability to make people forget, like, the infamous kiss from the end of Superman 2. But just this whole cellophane S thing, even fucking Family Guy parody it. Like, it doesn't make
I've got an
any
explanation.
sense.
I've got an explanation for it.
It doesn't make any sense why he doesn't use it again. Why doesn't he use it on all 3 of them? Why doesn't he just keep doing it? It's like, did he only have one?
He only had one.
Where does he make them?
It was a one shot. No.
Like, why doesn't Zod have this?
No. I've got an. I'm delving deep into theory crafting of how he gets his S. Now, we don't see it in the movies, but by this point, Superman has made contact with Bruce Wayne, and Batman and Wayne Enterprises make his cellophane S's, but he can only have one because it's made out of very special material that stops Kryptonians.
And that's the point he chose to use
And that's
it.
when he decided to use it. He's like, because it was brand new. He was on his brand new suit that Bruce had made for him, and he was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I've got this. I'm going to use it." So there you go. That's how deep into crafting that I can go.
Some fucking crazy mental gymnastics you got to pull for that one.
Hey, it's Bruce Wayne and Wayne Enterprises. They made it for him.
It's just.
And afterwards, in the end sequence, which we never got at the end titles, he gets on the phone and goes, "Hey, Bruce, can you send me some more of those cellophane S's because they work really well?"
That sequence in the film, in the original cut, they're trying to show that the strength is too matched. They can't win. So Zod needs to use his cunning. He needs to pull a Lex Luthor almost.
Yeah, rip off Lois's arms.
Yeah, and that does lead to one of the greatest moments in those Superman movies. But we're not talking about that yet. Okay, that S thing is just.
You just got to think about it, that it's made by Wayne Enterprises. It's his new suit that Batman made for him.
They did it. You could have cut out. You could have cut out the fast moving bit where they're all appearing in different areas where it seems like they're decoys. You could take that out. You could take out the S. You could take out the "we must combine our strength" where they shoot lasers out of their fingers. You take all that shit out because it's all equally silly in my opinion. And you could have just had this moment where they're fighting and they're like, "Look, we're going to basically do this forever."
Well,
so either you bow to my commands, or I'm gonna kill the woman you love. It's part of it's one of the themes of the movie.
Those things that you just mentioned were not in Donner's cut. Where Richard Donner didn't put them in.
No, in Donner's cut, what happens is what I'm saying. They have this realization where he's basically like, "Hey, look, we're matched." And I know who you are, and I'm going to kill the people you love if you don't jump into that device and have your powers taken away. And he does the old switcheroo and crushes his hand and
do you know what's even more stupid than the cellophane S, though?
Cellophane.
Like you said, the finger pointing with lasers.
We must combine our strength.
That could have easily been changed to X-ray heat vision, and all three of them do it because they've got that power. And the whole strength of 3 heat visions on Superman, he couldn't stop, and it turns him hot. But then he does somehow muster the strength and get back. So they could have tweaked that slightly. But even more silly than the cellophane S is Superman's holograms.
Well, no, they're not holograms. I mentioned them. They're moving around at super speed.
Nope. Because none jumps on one, and it's made out of concrete or ice, and it crumbles. How does he make that one?
No, he's just standing in front of it, isn't he?
No. So
how do they make holograms?
No, they just vanish and appear, and Superman makes 3 of himself.
Oh shit, he does.
She goes and kicks one, which is a hologram, and she spins around and falls.
Yeah, and
then non jumps on one, and it's like
and Lois tries to hug one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and Zod thinks that the real Superman is a hologram, and he leans on him.
So can we just agree that whole sequence is just batshit insane?
Yeah,
it's all silly.
Now you could say that Superman has holographic projectors, and that would be fine because the one that she kicks and Lois tries to hug, but the one that none is solid.
See, I'm starting to suspect that a lot of these movies are pretty silly because
I'm beginning to suspect whoever took over from Donner was smoking something.
Well, he was more of a comedy filmmaker, right?
So yeah, let's.
You've got one more now to guess.
Okay,
then we'll go on to all the little ones.
Well, I'm not going to use Bilbo Baggins because I just think that was Peter Jackson's interpretation of the book.
I still found it really silly, but it's not.
See, I didn't find it silly. I found it more jarring. I was like, "What? That's not how I saw it in my head from the books." And I think that's
so. Maybe I need to define my terms then with silly. Silly to me is like it's just it stands out. It's completely. It doesn't fit.
No, and that scene takes you completely out because that's supposed to be a very touching scene between Frodo and Bilbo.
Makes you kind of want to laugh. I remember when I saw that the first time. Again, Lord of the Rings. I'm starting to worry about these films as I get older. Am I just becoming cynical or something? But like as I was watching that in the theater, I was like, oh no.
I was like, what?
People jump scared.
Yeah,
it was jump scares,
and that's what it was there for,
which is fine. And the person I was with also did not had the same reaction, the same sort of like,
huh?
Did that just happen?
Yeah.
And again, because there's so much good in those movies, you forget about that crap as you move forward. Because spoiler alert, next episode, Probably going to have some more Lord of the Rings gaffs.
Well, we got to go 2 towers this time. So
come on, let's guess.
I'm not going to put Scotty bringing his nephew to the bridge because for 2 reasons. One, the extended scenes actually point out that it's Scotty's nephew, and you don't find that in the theatrical cut. And we talked about it, the sheer stress of the battle and all that could have disorientated him, and he could have thought the only person that could save him was Bones.
You suck.
No, and Bones was on the bridge.
You suck.
See, I don't think that's...
It's the other silly moment.
No, I don't.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because it doesn't matter. You're a bloody engineer in Starfleet. You're trained for this. You know this is your nephew. So why the fuck would you take him to the last place he's going to get help? Take him to the goddamn sickbay. Ask the computer where the doctor is. What? Why'd you bring him to the bridge? And it's also so like telegraphed as well. Let's go see how badly we've been hurt. It's so silly. Why would he do it?
I don't agree with that one. As you said, he could be shell shocked, not only from seeing his nephew who's almost dead in his arms, but
he could be shell shocked, but he wasn't, because we know from earlier, because he's talking to Kirk over the computer, discussing what's going on with auxiliary power.
No, that's bad editing, because they cut out the parts of his nephew getting blown up.
So you're basically likening it to that famous footage of the guy who like picks his blown off arm up and whatnot, just kind of walking around.
And that's more of what happens in battles and war. It's so disoriented because of seeing his loved one getting blown to pieces, and he's also just been through an ass kicking himself.
Do you know what would make that more believable for me? And this is headcanon shit we're talking about now. He's got his nephew in his arms. He's thinking, I got to get him to the sickbay. He just walks into the turbo lift and doesn't do anything. And someone calls the turbo lift, and the turbo lift goes up to the bridge. And the bridge opens, and he looks, and he doesn't know where he is. There we go.
Yeah.
Or without that headcanon, it's a fucking silly moment.
Or he could be saying,
"Shame on you, Scotty."
No, or he could be saying, "I got to get him to Bones," because that's the only person he thinks I could save.
I still think Nicholas Meyer, being such a great filmmaker that he is, and what he made of that film, it was a little bit daft.
It was, but it wasn't up there.
It's a bit daft.
Denethor's sillier.
AFT.
So yeah, I don't put.
But the problem is, what I said about Denethor is you immediately and see Peter Jackson does this. He throws these crazy moments into these movies, and then it's like, haha, fuck you! I'm gonna make you forget all about that because this shit's fucking awesome.
Yeah, but like you said, you could head.
Let me finish.
Right.
But with that Star Trek scene, immediately after that, we're in sickbay.
Yeah, I know. But like you said, you could headcanon.
I almost feel like McCoy should have been saying, when he's like, he stayed at his post when the others ran, and McCoy should have been like, well, if you'd have fucking brought him here, he'd still be alive, you dumbass.
Oh, when he walked in, McCoy should have gone, Scotty, what the fuck are you doing here? Yeah. Get him to sickbay. But like, this is why it's not as silly as the Denethor one in my mind. It's because you could headcanon your way into understanding why Scotty did what he did. There's no way you can headcanon Denethor surviving a 7-minute run while on fire. Unless his robes were fireproof, but then his head would be done.
Yeah, so you're now basing it on whether or not it's
feasible, plausible.
And again, definitions. Something silly in a movie has got very little to do with whether or not it's plausible or whether it's just going too far based on the previous tone of the film.
Well, if you look at what we've talked about so far, the Denethor, the Superman, and the Forrest Gump, they weren't plausible situations.
No.
And then the Javert, the Bilbo, and Scotty, they were just very out of place for the movie. But
they're all out of place. Everything they all have in common. They're all out of place.
That one's more out of place because it doesn't fit the narrative of the story. Like Javert doing what he did does not fit the tone of that movie. Scotty doing what he did does not fit the personalities that we know of Montgomery Scott, the chief engineer of the Enterprise, but we can headcanon our way into it.
So, with that in mind, we'll move on to Old Ben and Obi-Wan. Because now, whilst that is actually pretty plausible, because people have similar sounding names.
Yeah, Kenobi could be like Jones.
Where it comes in silly for me, and this is where we now get into the realms of doing the typical thing of criticizing George Lucas's script writing capabilities, is it's super lazy, for one thing. But only in contrast to the fact that he didn't think that out here in the middle of nowhere where these two droids have just shown up, asking for a Kenobi called Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Luke's thinking to himself, I wonder if he means old Ben Kenobi.
Does he say? Does he mean old Ben Kenobi? Or does he mean old Ben?
So he what's it called? He says he sits down at the dinner table, and he says he's owned by someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means old Ben. But earlier on, when he's with 3PO and R2, that's where he says, I wonder if he means old Ben Kenobi.
See, and this is where you could have done one thing to the script, and it make way more sense and not sound as stupid or silly. Is if he goes, the droid said he was the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means Ben Kenobi.
Well,
because the old Ben Kenobi sounds too much like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Whereas if he just went Ben Kenobi, there's a Ben Kenobi that lives out beyond the Dune Sea.
But it's put in there just so that we can have that quick moment where Owen and Veru look at each other, and it's like it's telling the audience.
Yeah, but
basically, obviously, it's without them telling Luke, they're telling the audience. But it's exactly who he's on about.
But it's the Obi-Wan and the old Ben. If Luke had if they'd got rid of the old, it'd have made way more sense and wouldn't have sounded so jarring, because there could be a Ben Kenobi living in the Dune Sea.
Yeah, the thing is ultimately the way that movie is edited, the jankiness of that script is ultimately saved. Like I say, with the cutting to Veru and Owen looking at each other, the way that Luke keeps asking about it, wonder if he means old Ben. In the editing room, they did a very good job of making that sound reasonable.
Yeah,
because I draw attention to a quote from Harrison Ford reading scripts from George Lucas. You can write this shit, but you can't say it. I can almost imagine everyone in the Alec Guinness probably saying, look, you can write this shit, but you can't say it.
Well, the reason why I say it is because his name isn't Old Ben Kenobi. His name's Ben Kenobi. Luke would know him as Ben Kenobi.
But we don't know where he got the name from of Ben from. That we'll find that out in the TV series.
He's called Old Ben Kenobi because
he's old.
Fucking old.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, because that whole take with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, as you say, does seem silly. But then when he...
My point is, though, is that's the least silly thing that I pointed out.
But this is what I'm saying, though. Then skip forward. When Luke sees him, he goes, oh, Ben. And he goes... And he doesn't go, oh, old Ben. He calls him Ben. Yeah. And he says, these droids... Ben? He goes, these droids begin to an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you know him?
Of course I know him. He's me.
And that's brilliant. That's good script.
It's great, but it's also great, though, because of Alec Guinness.
Yeah. But that's where it's a good script, because he asks him... He says they belong to an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is that a relative of yours?
Yeah.
So that would
my interpretation of the scene is that Luke had made he basically made the connection, and he knew before they were out there that it's probably the same person.
Because obviously,
but I get that again because of the way it's all edited together.
Well, this is what's going to annoy some of the what do you call them, the fandom menace out there. In the Obi-Wan,
I don't call them that. They call themselves that.
Because in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they're going to have to cast a Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker has met Obi-Wan Kenobi before. He knows him.
Yeah, but he'll be a kid.
Yeah. But
it's easier to cast a younger version of someone when they're a kid.
But you'll get this, fucking, why is Luke Skywalker in it again? He don't need to be...
No, the fandom menace are kind of... don't hate us. They're kind of hypocrites when it comes to that kind of shit.
Yeah.
They'll say if they don't want it, but realistically they do. The fandom minutes are the type of people who will bitch and complain about a Mary Sue character in the movies, but then absolutely freak out and
yeah.
when Luke Skywalker shows up to save the day in The Mandalorian.
See, the thing is, Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian had to be done because that's who Grogu reached out to. Fair, done. He's gone.
We're not talking about that.
No.
I'm just making a point.
And Luke has to be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi
We're not talking
series.
about that. We're just making a point.
Right.
Let's move on. The Obi-Wan Kenobi
was the
thing,
least...
it was the least silliest thing. It's just I mostly put it in because it was kind of an inside joke that our mum and dad used to have.
Yeah. Okay. So
and so it was a little bit of a nostalgia thing.
How many have we done?
Well, we've still got. Let me count. We got 1, 2, 3. We got 4 left.
Okay. So let's quickly touch on Toad. We know why that scene doesn't work because it was poorly edited. There was a lot more dialogue between Toad and Storm, and through bad editing, you get a really silly scene because you're missing what Toad's saying to her. But I do like the fact that she should have said, "It croaks." So,
well, just but like editing or not, the line as it is, the end result is just, you can tell that they were like, yeah, that's badass.
That's funny.
And then when you see it, you're like, no, it wasn't even supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be badass. That's the way, in my opinion, it's framed.
Bryan Singer thought it was.
It's meant to be badass.
And do you know what would have been more badass? If she'd have just walked in and blown him up,
just
and not said anything.
I say that in the video. She shouldn't have said anything at all.
No, because the way that would have had impact through script writing, and I don't think I'm a good script writer. I've never on is the fact that Toad says to, "Don't you people ever die?" So he's pissed off that he can't kill her. She just walks in and just fucking blows him out the door. Would have been so much better.
So I don't know what the behind the scenes stuff you were talking about is, but just alone, it's all I find.
There's more dialogue that got chopped.
But you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? I think, isn't it? He's like, do you know what happens to this when this happens? You know what happens to this?
Yeah.
He's taunting her with that, and she responds with, you know what happens when a toad struck by lightning? The thing is, it's like, well, yeah. Like, lightning is superheated plasma.
Yeah.
It's
do you know what
electricity? It's going to kill him.
Do you know?
So that's why I suggested, you could have also got away with her being like, you know what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning? She looks back down, looks at him, and goes,
It
and then no, nothing.
Nothing.
She just kind of like pulls a little cutesy face and zaps him.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, 3 more.
Let's touch on the Matrix one.
All right,
because we can head.
This was close second as Matrix.
Yeah. But we can head canon our way out of this. So when Neo dies, he gets shot. All despair. The Sentinels are breaking in, and she says, "You can't be dead because the
Oracle told me that I would fall in love with the one, and I love you."
Oh no, the one, whoever I fall in love with would be the one, and I love you. And then he wakes up again. So this could be headcanoned real easy, that he wasn't actually fully dead for a start. Or more likely, Neo literally has superpowers.
Well, he does well in the Matrix.
Yeah. No, he has them. We see in the second one, he stops Sentinels in the real world.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So he has superpowers. He is...
But you see, that's where the Matrix trilogy starts to lose me anyway.
Yeah.
I always liked the whole idea, and I say this in the video, about determinism and destiny, and how destiny is not a mystical thing. It's just determinism. Yeah. It's just things happen the way they're supposed to happen because, like a computer code, the reality is designed to work a certain way. What happens always was going to happen and always will happen. So why create the forced cliffhanger of him getting killed?
Well, you could look at it this way as well, headcanon your way into this.
Or getting knocked out or whatever.
Is where he gets shot and he dies, he has... Basically, that is the near-death experience he has. So, like, do you know people have seen themselves floating above beds and see the white light, but he decides not to come and they go back to their body? Because when he wakes up, he sees the Matrix differently now. He sees the code. So it was the fact that he had to die.
It's a resurrection, Jesus' resurrection allegory.
He had to die to unlock the power to be able to manipulate the Matrix the way he did. Again,
it's just the timing. It's basically like the she's the power of love,
the power of boners. Yeah. But basically that is, you're just putting what she's saying. It's just a coincidence she's saying that at the same time that his body is rejigging to be able to read the Matrix.
It's just something I come across with a lot of Wachowski scripts. Like the Wachowskis tend to get a little bit too carried away sometimes with their word salad.
Well, Christ, they did in Reloaded and Revolutions.
I almost feel like the two of them, they've got some great ideas, and then they just like fall off the cliff. They're like fucking. Their ideas are like lemmings. It's like, okay, here's the cliff. The lemmings. Here's the ideas. Of the great ideas. Oh shit, we've gone too far.
All right. So, what are the points? Which ones have we got? We have. What have we got left? We've done all of episode 2, haven't we? What have we got left in episode 1? We got Superman, Bilbo, Old Ben. What am I missing?
Shoelace.
Oh yeah, the Jenny and shoelace. So that to me was a scene that was silly and awkward due to child actors.
Okay, so right, there's a lot to unpack. That's why I'm glad we actually naturally kept this one till last. So the movies themselves, the Harry Potter movies we're talking about here, just in case anybody can't read our minds, are a little bit troublesome for me. And this isn't because I'm a book wanker or anything.
They get worse as they go on.
I just think as films, the first one,
and the second
great whimsical Chris Columbus film. The second one, great whimsical Chris Columbus film.
It's the best of the lot.
The third one, we've got a different director now.
A darker take on it.
Well, yeah, they knew they had to go in a darker direction, and the kids are still young enough that a lot of their acting chops can be brought down to the fact that they're kids. I really like the third one.
I like Alfonso Cuarón.
Alfonso Cuarón is a really good filmmaker.
I like
he films a beautiful film.
4's just a stinking turd.
4 is just, I don't know. We might have to do an entire episode.
The only part I like of 4 is
it completely changes the character motivations for a lot of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
It completely changes the characteristics of a lot of the characters. They miss out so much that the plot becomes less streamlined, which is what I feel like they were going for because the book's really big, and it ends up just being this one like coincidence after another, things just happening to
and it's
Harry.
Annoying because it's one of my favorite books.
And it's annoying because coincidence is a major theme.
Yeah.
Of that book, because ultimately none of it is coincidence. It was all by design. It was all planned.
The only real good part of that movie is the resurrection of Voldemort, and that's because we get to see Ralph Fiennes.
And even then, I don't know. I can't watch that film anymore.
5 is a better movie than the book.
The fifth one,
because the book sucked.
The fifth one is where I start to realize that I'm not a big Harry Potter fan anymore, because I'm thinking this isn't actually a bad take on the film, and the actors are great in the fifth one. They're directed very well. I love the introduction of Luna Lovegood. I think the fifth film's problems are I'm starting to see holes in the Harry Potter universe.
Plus, that's the biggest book as well.
I feel like the Harry Potter universe is a great book, like a great book
J.K.
story.
Rowling can build a good universe.
It's a good written word story. On film, it don't work. It's starting to feel a little bit like strange. And yes, it's fantasy, but it's a fantasy that's supposed to be grounded in the real world. Like when. Hello, it's Michael and Matthew from the future here. Due to technical difficulties, we lost about 5 to 10 minutes of today's podcast, but that's okay because pretty much all it was going down a diatribe of how much we hate Daniel Radcliffe and Bonnie Wright's acting abilities.
I wouldn't say hate. Hate's a bit harsh. They just weren't very good.
They obviously just they didn't develop in the ways that the filmmakers of the Harry Potter series had hoped.
And that scene was just silly.
Yeah, no chemistry whatsoever between the two, and as a result, it became a very awkward and very silly scene. So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with any of these points, and we'll pop up a little card up here so that you can go check out the videos for yourself. And until next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.